Today, we're back on the Z28 Camaro Bodywork. We're still at the Bodywork stage. For those of you who have been watching our channel, thank you for watching, and those new, welcome aboard. We are actually getting ready to block sand this car. If you go back and look at some of our previous videos, you can see we ran into a few issues. Some of our major issues that we ran into are the industry is changing, the world is changing, collision and restoration, everything's changing. A lot of the restoration shops are doing newer work, and a lot of the newer collision shops are trying to do restoration work. So it's a very challenging time in the industry, which is also a challenging time on YouTube channels because everybody and their brother now is actually on YouTube, and everybody seems like they're doing the same tutorials, the same things, and it could be overwhelming. We've been doing this for quite a few years now, and we get to see a lot of new faces coming aboard on YouTube, and a lot of them have really good information because there's a lot of really good shops out there that the people are getting out because they're slower or whatnot. They're actually showing you some of their expertise, which is awesome, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. For us, we really wanted to get away from high-end stuff for a while because it's so involved. Most people don't like watching it, and we get yelled at all the time because the stuff that has to be done to get a high-end finish isn't the same as you do in a collision industry or in a regular garage or anything. So a lot of people will actually get upset because they're like, oh, you don't have to do that. Why do you do that? And some of it's true. The levels that you have to do high-end work are a lot more involved. And if you're just in your garage doing this, you're probably not going to want to have to go do that. But we do want to show you different things. And one of the things that we were introduced to a while back now is the actual hard Lexan sanding blocks. These ones here are the linear blocks, and we do put links in the descriptions on our videos so you can go to and click on it and buy the same things we buy. We obviously are not a store. We don't sell stuff. We just try to give you information and based off what we know and what we do. So with this car here, we ran into many problems. One of the problems is we were trying to experiment. A couple of shops I know are trying to give treat restorations as you would on a late model vehicle. So like if you were to bring in your Nissan Maxima to the dealer and say repaint it and do the body work, we're trying to treat an older car like that. I knew in the back of my head it wasn't going to work, and that could be why we're here exactly where I knew we would be. But there's so many processes and procedures you need to do on the older vehicles that don't work the same way you would on a new vehicle. Disassembly, reassembly, all that type of stuff. For us, we're biting the bullet. This one here was supposed to be that way. It was supposed to be a quick, paint it like you would paint average Joe car. The problem is they're not average Joe cars, and I'm not average Joe. I don't like things going out that don't look right. So this one here, we're taking it a little farther. We're just going to take a hit. We're going to lose some money on it, lose a lot of money on it, but we're going to do it to a better level so that the customer will hopefully appreciate it, see some really radical, cool stuff, and then average Joe will get to see a nicer vehicle because let's face it, going to a car show or seeing a car on the street that looks like the one next to it's not great. When you go and you see something better, it makes you feel better, you want better, you appreciate more, and that's what we're about. With us, what happened, pretty much the entire title of this video is we are changing what we do, right? The reason we're changing what we do is because you have to stay with the times, and things do change and things do evolve, and when you get set in your ways, you kind of don't listen to other people. On this car, we're showing you we're not using our typical high build primers. We used the Akzo Nobel's Velorum 200 primer, which is the same primer we use if we were doing a used car to just get it in, get it out, and get it done, or a new car that was damaged. Showing you what's different about it, if we like it, and trying different techniques. So normally you would put a thick primer on, and then you sand the hell out of it. This is a thinner primer, so you have to make sure your body works straighter and better. It goes on evenly, so you put less coats on, and supposedly we're going to be able to sand less and not have to waste so much material. The reason we're changing our ways in the whole topic of the video again is if you watch our previous videos, the way I've been doing bodywork for years, and there's reasons why you do what you do. If someone comes in and wants a high-end vehicle and you get your car stripped down to bare metal, you do your metal work perfect, and you spend a lot of time making sure that metal work is right, you don't need to put a lot of filler on it. We all know that, but the problem is you at home and most shops don't get their metal work to that stage. And I found that from years of experience, we skim coat everything and we block it. You always hear me say, if you see metal, stop. I don't like seeing metal. When you see metal, metal doesn't stand the same way filler is, and you're going to put some sort of ridge or wave into it. The problem is, with the new technology and the new materials, you don't need the skim the whole car most of the time now. With the Evercoat 4-to-1 Super Build that we've been using, we've been having great luck. We've been experimenting with this for just over 2 years and have zero problems. The one reason I was skeptical, because I'm always skeptical, because a lot of times you try things, and we did years ago, we used one of the spray fillers, you know, because it's not a primer, it goes on thick. It's called a primer, a Super Build primer, and it is Super Build. It's basically like putting a skim coat of body filler over the entire surface, which saves your customers a lot of time. Us squeegeeing it on and then sanding it versus just spraying it and let it flow out, it's a time saver, and you are saving your customers money by doing so. For years, we would do that. We would skim the whole panel, block it, make sure our filler is very, very thin, and then we'd prime it and go over it. The problem that I'm worried about, oh, actually, let me back up. So what we ended up doing in the past when we spray some of these feather fills and different stuff, they would get around louvers or tight edges or something like that, and then they would shrink and they would delaminate a little bit. And I saw a lot of shops going through that, a lot of reputable shops going through that. We luckily only did it on a few occasions years ago, like a long time ago, so we stopped it. So I knew that if we put a skim coat of filler and sanded it, it would be good. And it is doing a lot of extra work, and it's a lot of extra time to do it that way. So now it's redundant for us to put a thin layer of body filler across, sand it perfect so that it fixes everything, and then go through and put this Super Build on it, which covers all that, just to block it off again, or block sand all that off again. It's redundant. So now, whereas you've seen me do body work and I get everything skim coated, you're gonna start seeing some of the body work we do where you're gonna see more bare metal. Because what we are gonna do is go back to, like, usually when a car comes in, you get it bare metal, you strip it down to bare metal, you do all your metal work, then you spray the whole thing with epoxy. The epoxy sealers now, or primers now, are better rust inhibitors and they're better adhesion promoters. So they stick better to the metal, and your body fillers, when sanded, stick better to the epoxies, and also some of the newer epoxies that we use actually sand okay. Like the old epoxies didn't sand okay, and it was the same thing as when you're sanding Bondo with metal. If you're sanding a shitty epoxy and you're gumming up your paper, you're fighting with that, and now you're sanding through your Bondo, and you're making waves and bring yourself backwards. But some of the new epoxies are terrific. They are very sandable, even though people say they aren't, they are. So when you're sanding them, you're sanding at the same rate as your filler. So if you knock through, everything's still sanding smoothly. Now, if that's too much information, please feel free to ask questions in our description so we can answer it, because I know I talk fast, and a lot of people who've never done this probably don't know what we're talking about. And for those of you who do, you probably already advanced and either agreeing with me or saying, shut the F up because you don't know what you're talking about. With all that said, you'll be seeing us do the body work a little bit differently. How we did it on this one, and the reasons we did it, is because we're trying to keep this more budget friendly and not get out of control. We are getting a little out of control. Some of the out of control is from our own problems that we ran into. So on this vehicle, we already block sand this whole thing, right? We put it in 4:1. So we got the Super Build on here. All we had to do is come through and sand that down, get it really close, and put some thin high build primer on there and block that down. We're ready for paint or sealer or whatever process we want to do next. We had someone come in, and then they went through this whole thing with a 3-inch foam sanding block, right? Now you'll hear people say, don't do that, and why, and blah, 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 blah. And yes, if you're doing your car and you want it to look like an okay used vehicle where you're gonna put orange peel in the paint to kind of hide some of the texture and issues, then by all means, use a 3-inch block, foam block, use a DA, use all that crap that puts waves in it. And I don't care who you are or what you say, the small blocks and the DAs always put waves in it. So this is proof in the pudding. So we've already went through, and this thing was block sanded with linear blocks, right? And then someone went through that Super Build and did a 3-inch block foam and sanded it. And you can see everywhere they went like this, which again, you don't even sand like that. You're not supposed to sand like this. You're supposed to sand cross-hatching and move around and keep things moving, never back and forth. If you go back and forth, you put grooves into it. So as you can see here, we're just going through, I'm just gonna sand this, and I'm sanding this with 220. We should be at a finer sandpaper at this point, based off of the amount of work that was done to this car. Okay, so for the most part, I was able to save most of this trunk. There is high metal spots here. There's still low areas here. When we put that guide coat on, that black powder or the black spray, when you sand it, you're leveling off the top, and the black, if it stays there, means it's a depression and it's low. Pretty common sense, pretty easy. That's why it's good for people to learn with guide coat, because it takes the easiness in there. If you look at here, we have really sharp metal, low spot, low spot. I know that this has to be tapped down. So when you're building a car like this and you're trying to cut a budget, sometimes people would overlook this because they're going, oh, we're going to put a spoiler over there. You're not going to see it, blah, blah, blah. It takes 2 seconds to tap this down, which we're going to tap this down. Same thing here. These two highs, we're going to lightly tap down. This is going to have to be filled with actually filler, which by no means at this point, after being bodyworked, block sanded with a linear block, guide coated, block sanded, guide coated, block sanded, then 4-to-1 primer, guide coated, block sanded, be at this position. I put after all that because I knew there was issues with it. When we were spraying the fender, I did put 3 coats of the Velorum 200 primer on here, which is a thinner primer. You can see it sands okay. It sands, for bang for the buck, it sands great. Axo Nobel, a lot of their primers and stuff they make sands harder. It dries harder. Some people argue that drying harder means you're not shrinking, so you don't have to worry down the road about your product shrinking, whereas sometimes with Glazerith high build primers that we used to use a lot of, they sand beautiful, they go on beautiful, they're like the perfect thickness, everything about them is great, but because they're softer, sometimes you worry that they're going to shrink or come down, although we've never had a problem with them. Price, this is way better price point than a Glazerith product. Functionality, Glazer I do think is better, but bang for your buck, this is a really nice product, and you can see here that what we were told about the primer going on thinner and even versus thick and high is true. You sand it out, you're not sanding a ton of material out, so you really don't need that aggressive sanding. And now that this dried harder and is thinner, you're definitely not going to have to worry about shrinking or any of that stuff. With this trunk, I will have to go through. I'm going to fix these areas, and then we're going to have to prime it again. And then from that primer, we're just going to do 320-400, and then it'll be ready for sealer. Because this is black, straight black, no metallics, we're going to just do 400 grit, seal it, paint it. Or I'm sorry, I'll do 400 and kiss it with 600 grit, seal it, paint it. We'll probably do wet on wet. But what I wanted to show you, the main event of this video today is going to be this fender. So for those of you who've watched the previous videos and saw what we did, you'll know what we're talking about, or what I'm talking about. And for those of you who didn't watch the previous videos, I'll give you a slight recap, because one, if you're new and you're watching these videos, it probably sucks to come in and not know what the heck's going on. Two, for our reoccurring friends that will come back and watch the videos over and over again, sorry when I repeat myself, but the reason we do it is because even though we get a lot of people looking at our videos, we get more new people looking than reoccurring. It grows as you go, but we get a lot of people that are new here. What we did is I left a few imperfections in here to show you how the guide coat works. And this, again, our test was, instead of using a really thick high build primer, we used the Velorum 200, which is a high build primer, but today's high builds for new vehicles is not the same as for restoration work. And we're gonna go over and show you. So we're just gonna go through and block sand this, and kind of hard because you're behind me. So now with bodywork is very easy, right? No pressure. I'm not pushing hard. If I was, this fender would be on the ground, and we're just gonna go back and forth and keep cutting it. And what we're using is black powder that we put on here, which is either powder form, where you have a pounce pad that you pull it out and you tap it on, or there's actually Railcan sprays, and it's your choice of what you like or what you use. We do put links in the descriptions of what we use. If you like what you see, by all means, go ahead and buy it. We used to not disclose pricing on a lot of stuff, but there used to be a lot of loyalty in this business, and you'd have a jobber. You have a warehouse or manufacturer that makes the products, a warehouse that sells the products, a jobber that sells the products to us, and then we would be able to get a markup even at that point so that we can make something off of it. Nowadays, everything's online. No, it's no big secrets. Retail versus wholesale is out the window because people are just go online and buy it, and Amazon prices are Amazon prices. So you can see here, even though we block sanded it good the last time, when we did 3 coats of this 200 primer, we still ended up breaking through a little bit of metal, a little bit of body filler. I'm going to run down this edge a little bit, because I'm confident that after this will be our last coat of primer. Or we'll have 1 coat of primer, and then we'll be ready to seal it. Paint this bad boy. One thing, I'm seeing a little metal there. This is still a little low, very, very shallow. One thing when you're doing body work, is don't get too fixated on one area. A lot of times you'll see a problem, you'll over sand that area, and then cause more issues down the road. Because we're using a super long block on here, what we're doing is we're making sure that the whole thing's level there in this whole area, versus a small block would just worry about a smaller area. So if we had a 3-inch block and hit this, all this would already be gone. All the low spots would be gone appeared wise. But when you run across the big block, they were still there. And some people had asked us what they feel the difference in the hard blocks, where to get the hard blocks from. There's not a lot of manufacturers out there really doing them. I actually originally reached out to the big hit blocks ones to see if we could sell them or figure out some sort of program to try to sell them for them and get some sort of commission, because we're obviously pushing this stuff. See, there's a piece of metal showing here in 2 lows, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. But they never called back or anything. And then one of our representatives from our paint company came in, and he highly liked the linear blocks, spoke very highly of them. And then they're also available on Amazon, so it works out for us that you could actually go there and purchase these. Because honestly, I don't really see, it's hard plastic. You know, if it's hard, it's plastic and it goes across, I think you're good. Everybody always puts a big deal into the products, but at some point it falls upon the person using them too. My dad always used to say it's the man who makes the tools, not the tools who make a man. And it was funny because as a kid, I always wanted a big Snap-on toolbox, and my father was like, I'd rather have a wall of craftsmen than one Snap-on box, because the man makes the tools don't make the man. And throughout years, it's funny, as you see that working with people. A lot of the people who have these giant toolboxes with all the latest and the greatest have no idea how to use any of them. And then you get some guy walking around with a little cart with some tools on it, and he does really great work. Not to say that everybody that has the big toolboxes sucks. Those who've been around this know what I'm saying. Let's show you what we unveiled here, right? Got a little bit of metal breaking through here, right? This here is actually very straight, no lows. A little bit of low here, which we're hitting metal. A little bit of a whoop-de-doop here we're going to have to deal with. A little bit, the edge is a little messy. But all in all, this is what I was saying. Normally I hate breaking through, but for what we're doing, we're going to break through a little bit. We're going to take you through a whole process on this fender, painting it and everything, so you could see what we're talking about. We'll sight it. We'll hold the camera down so you can look down at when the paint's on there and it's wet, because that'll show you any of the bodywork issues. And that's pretty much it. That's what we're doing today. We're going to be sanding some fenders, trying to get things locked in. Hopefully this helps you out a little bit with the sanding, why we do what we do, to help you with your own projects. I appreciate everybody watching the videos, new people and old people, especially old people. We get a lot of people emailing us, and I really appreciate you guys, because sometimes these videos get a little tiring because it's a lot of effort for a little return. The return is when you hear people getting into the trade or building their car and appreciating what we do. That's big. We really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Please remember, like, share, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, look us up on all the social media, and by all means, support the people that we're using, because they are good products, good companies in our industry. And we always, like I said, we have the links in the descriptions, and if those aren't available, if it's like a short form video and you want to know where, you could always go to our websites, atomicautoworks.com. You can click on the copycat link, and there's just links in the description or links on those pages where you could go and you could buy this stuff at home and do it. And Amazon will ship it right to your door. I'm done trying to beat the Amazons. If you can't, what do they say? If you can't beat them, join them. And that's kind of where we are, because they do it better. They get the stuff to you cheaper, faster, and we can't really be competitive with that in the market. We could cry and complain and try and fight, but for those of you guys at home that are building this stuff, it's nice because there's not a lot of body suppliers left, and a lot of the body suppliers and upholstery suppliers are either limited where they are, and they sell direct now to people. So it's a new way of life, and we're here to progress with it. Thanks for watching.